Good afternoon to you all. Welcome to Fine Art Classes number 1, live from the Cantuta House here in west end of St. Louis. What we will be covering here in the next few weeks will be a process on how a piece of art, a fine art, is created. From sketches all the way to the drawings, and to the end will be a painting, okay? This process at times can be very cumbersome. In other words, it can be very boring and tedious. But you have to have the discipline to put the same emphasis as you do as when you started creating your piece, all right? Because what you want to do at the end is you want your piece of art to look good, so it takes some work, and to get some work done, that takes discipline. So what I'm going to start out with today is to explain some terminology, that means some language, so that as we go through these courses, you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about, because I'm pretty, I utilize this nomenclature pretty often. Now for the younger audience, if you still don't understand what I'm trying to say, please write down questions, because at the end of the course, at the end of each course, we're going to leave a couple of minutes for questions and answers, all right? So let's get started. What I want to show you first is how this whole process starts. All right, I'm going to show you a drawing, a finished drawing that I did prior to painting a mural. All right, this is what you can see the drawing right over here, all right? Get a little better view here, all right? So you can see the young man over here with the rest of the first part of the mural that I drew at the Arts and Empowerment mural at Better Family Life, which I belong to, by the way, also. And this is the finished piece, okay? This is how we finish it. So you can see how from the drawing it came out to the painting or to the mural. So this is what we're going to try to do throughout this whole process. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time, and like I said before, it's also going to be, you guys have to be disciplined to do what I'm going to ask you to do. So, drawing is the foundation of any type of creative process. Architects, fashion designers, animators, artists, all of us start out with drawings, okay? We start out with sketches because that's what comes into our head first of some type of vision or something that we want to create. You first have to put it down on a piece of paper, and that's how we're going to start, all right? Using a piece of paper and pen or pencil, the opportunities of self-expression are endless. And by using different drawing techniques, it's really cool how you'll be able to go through this whole process. All right, there's several ways to sketch. All right, and I have some little quick drawings that I started out with to show you which each type of drawing is and how we go about doing it. For example, a line drawing. All right, that would be the first term we're going to learn today. A line drawing. A line drawing, let's see if you can see it very clearly there. All right, a line drawing is a simple drawing, just with lines, okay? This, for example, you can see the face here. You can see the face. Yeah, I think that's a better view of a really quick drawing of two faces that are next to each other. All right, so that's a line drawing. Next, you have the doodling. In fact, there's a contest that Google does for doodling. And doodling, what that means is just having fun and just designing things out of your head. And I'll show you how I doodle in my book, in my little drawing book over here. For example, you can see that's what you call a doodle, all right? It's just a little simple drawing that you sit down while you're just listening to it. When I go to meetings, when I have meetings, sometimes my hands just can't stop, and so I doodle. And here would be another doodle, another finished piece of doodling that I do, all right? So those are called doodles, things that you would do Well, actually, basically, your subconscious is working, and it's just transmitting information to your hand, directly to your hand. Okay? That's what doodling would be. The next thing that we're going to go to is cartooning. All right? That's also a fun thing to do. All right? Cartoons. And again, these are simple line drawings with this cartoon character here. And you can shade them and give them some dimensions by doing the shading, which we'll be getting to also. All right? So that's another form of drawing, is a cartoon. The next thing after that, we're going to go to architectural drawings. All right? Architectural drawings, that's a little bit more precise. And what we're going to be doing, I'm going to show you a couple of architectural drawings here. Here's one where it's a little bit more specific. This is the addition to the museum, to the St. Louis Art Museum up at Art Hill here at Forest Park. Okay, that's an architectural drawing of that, in that view. And if you look real closely, you can see the reflection of the front of the art museum on the glass, okay? So that would be an architectural drawing where there's a lot of lines, no contours, everything is straight. And here's another view of that also, another architectural drawing, but with a different perspective point. You'll also be learning that word later on. All right, so here's a different view of that architectural drawing. So that is what you call an architectural drawing. The next thing, or the next area that we're going to hit to, is called photorealistic or hyper-realistic drawings. And this is what this would be. You can see there's some architecture happening over here, there's some faces happening over here, but you can see all the dimensions on this drawing as you can see it. As you can see, I'll get you guys a little closer look at this, so you can just see some of the more detailed work when it comes to shading, and it comes to different types of maneuvering of the pencil. All right, so this is what you call realistic or hyper-realistic drawings. And then we got two more to show you after that. Then we're gonna get you an idea of what we're doing, what the different types of drawings there is. The next thing is called the anamorphic illusion drawing. This is something that is a sort of little popular right now, as you see on the web. There's different artists that do some drawings, whether you have a shadow and it looks like it's actually coming out. It gives it a dimension. And here's a real quick drawing of an anamorphic, okay? You can see the fish, and you can see the shadow, and hopefully you'll understand that, that this fish is actually floating, because that's the shadow and it's sort of floating up in the air. At least that's what I was trying to do when I was doing this quick sketch for you all right? And last but not least, the other type of drawing is called the fashion illustration, all right? Fashion illustration, and again, this is also very, very interesting to do it. Now this has no straight lines. It's all pretty much a lot of curvature going on. So you can see this young lady walking down with her dress waving and her hair waving. So that would be a really quick, easy sketch whenever you want to do a design of a dress or anything else that you like to do. That is what you would be doing. You'd be coming up with this type of a sketch, all right? So you can see all the different things that I just showed you, all the different ways of sketching or of drawing. So that is what we're going to be covering basically today. And I'm going to try not to get you bored, but this first part, I'm going to do a lot of talking to give you guys an idea of where we're going to be heading. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of time towards the end to do some actual drawing, or probably just even creating a grid. The line drawings, which we talked about earlier, remember the line drawings, which is this one here, all right? the line drawings. Use contours without shading to create memorable sketches. If you really want to exercise your drawing skills with the line drawings, which is a lot of fun to do, is you'll sit down, you'll start applying the pencil onto the paper, and you do not lift your pencil at all, and you try to do the drawing completely without lifting your pencil, and you can go ahead and combine. Let's say you want to put a landscape behind here, but don't lift your pencil, even if it looks a little weird. That it gives you some discipline with your hand and the pencil, okay, on the line drawing. So that a great exercise to do this is to do the line drawings without lifting your hand off the piece of paper and just go through and draw and draw. While we think that doodling is a mindless pastime, this type of drawing is a wonderful way to let your subconscious mind flow. And that is what I was telling you. A lot of times when I'm, like I told you, when I'm at meetings, and this has nothing to do with me not paying attention to my meetings, it's just a matter of me showing you or just doing things without even thinking that I'm doing, but my hand needs to be constantly in motion. So I do all sorts of little doodlings like I showed you earlier, but what the main emphasis here is that my subconscious is working while I'm doodling and is transmitting information into my hand, and my hand just starts doing things, and at times it doesn't need, I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing, okay? Great artists like Leonardo da Vinci are known for their doodles. All right, so doodling is a lot of fun. Doodling to me is also, I like to doodle when I'm practicing different types of shading. When I'm going from when I'm really pressing hard on the pencil, when I want to get something really dark, to really barely touching the paper and just going through and barely shading things. And that's how you go about it. And that's how a lot of this is done, is what kind of pressure you're putting on the pencil as you're drawing and as you're shading. All right? All right, so next we're going to go to the cartooning aspect, okay? Cartoons have a long history dating back to print magazines in the 19th century. And a lot of these cartoons back then were utilized for satirical aspects. So satirical meaning they were making fun of the different things that were going on during that time. And even today we have a lot of those cartoons that are happening. But today we have a lot more fun cartooning that we do, and then we can go even further than that and go into the computerized era, or how they go about creating the cartoons and the computer itself. So cartoons will always be with us, and they are a lot of fun, especially when you look at a lot of the Disney movies, Disney characters. You look at a lot of the creations that you have of some of the glorious landscapes they do. So that all has to do with cartooning, and that all has to do with your imagination going wild. Then the artist working in photorealistic or hyper-realistic drawing style, which is what this is, okay? Patience is the key. Discipline is the key for all this. There's times where it seems like forever to finish a drawing, or to finish a drawing, because of how you go about honing on your craft, how you are able to train your hand to get those details, to get the detailed look that you want. But it takes a lot of discipline, because it can be very boring at times, like I told you earlier. While portraiture is a popular subject for hyper-realistic drawings, you don't need to limit yourself, all right? So there's some portraits where you have of some of these important people, but at the same time in these drawings, you can also show, for example, how the fire is going on down here. You can show how the water is going. You can produce all those things. You can show how hard this area is on the trains and on the buildings, and the different types of textures that you want to build through the pencil process. It's again, it goes through a process of discipline and being able to show of how and what you're wanting to do. All right? So that is what we're doing with the photorealistic and hyperrealistic drawings. The next things that we covered that I showed you was the architectural drawings. Again, I myself love to do architectural drawings. I could be drawing buildings all day long, and I don't get tired because it's just so much fun for me, and especially when you get into the details. As you will see in some of these on some of these drawings over here, you'll see some details of this church itself. If you want to, I'll bring it a little closer for you so that you can see this of the details of, so you can see of the church itself. Okay, of the drawings that you have. Well, still learning how to handle this, but you can see that. All right, of the detail that goes on through here. And I was showing you the detail that you can get when you're also drawing some of these locomotors from way back then. So those are the architectural drawings. All right, those are the things that, like I told you before, I really, really enjoy doing, and I could be doing that forever. Another technical study style. my mouth is getting a little bit too tired of talking, but I'll continue. Another technical style is the 3D drawings. Okay, it requires mastery of perspective. Perspective. What does perspective mean? What does it play? What does it do? Perspective was discovered back in the Renaissance era. The Renaissance era, about the 16th century, 15th century back then, and it was being able to give a building, or basically a building, when you're doing perspective, giving it an additional three-dimensional look by creating a little bit of depth through the perspective. I'm going to go a lot more in detail in that. In fact, that's probably going to cover one whole class itself on perspective, because perspective, you can have 1-point perspective, 2 points, 3-point perspective, every different ways on how you look at that. And that also applies to the body, and that applies to foreshortening of the body, of all the perspective ways that you're able to see this. Okay? And what I was showing you on this other piece, when you're giving the fish a little bit of a shadow to try to give him a little bit of a dimension there where that he's floating, that is a way also of being able to give that 3D, that three-dimensionality. The shadows is what's going to give you the 3 dimensions, okay? All right, fashion illustration. Fashion illustration. All right. How I use this in my own work is I utilize the movements of the human body, of whenever you're walking, of whenever you're playing soccer. Just like you see this little dude over here playing soccer, you're showing some movement. And so whenever you're doing this, especially when she seems like she's walking down the aisle because her hair is blowing back. Her dress is sort of puffed up because some air is going underneath her dress and giving it a little bit more of a dimension, okay? So that a lot of times what the fashion designers try to do is try to give movement to the models whenever they're walking down the aisle. That is what you're trying to create here, is a lot of movement more than anything else. And that is the illustration process. That is the thing that really again creates the movement. And there's all sorts of different styles of illustration, of fashion illustrations, of how that's a whole complete different set of learning skills that I never delved into that, but there's a lot of area there that can be discovered and can be explored to that. So I just barely touched the surface just to give you an idea of what that means, what that type of drawing is. All right? Okay, so that gives you guys a basic idea of the different drawing styles that there are. Gives you also an idea of what drawing means. All right? So we're going to get at least this one thing accomplished. We're at 21 minutes right now, so let's try to do the grid, and that's the first thing we're going to be doing, and then we'll continue on the next lesson, which will probably be next Thursday at approximately the same time. Okay, so what is a grid? All right, a grid is a series of vertical and horizontal lines that are used to subdivide a page so that whenever you're starting to draw, at least for myself, this is how I start to draw, especially when I'm doing a finished drawing. I will start out with a grid. I always start out with a grid. A grid helps me, I guess helps my mind to place the different aspects of the drawing where they're going to be. So a grid is very important. So you can see the grid behind this other sheet that I have over here. All right, this grid over here is a 2 inch by 2 inches throughout this whole back. So let's say we want to draw, which we're going to draw in the next session, we're going to draw a landscape. All right, so in order to draw a landscape, we have to find a horizon. A horizon is where the sky and the earth meet. So over here, let's say we put we'll put some mountains, and this will be the top, this will be the sky. So a horizon is going to be within this area. And I use these lines to keep myself in check of how my space is being divided. So maybe I want to keep my sky at a certain space and my mountains at a certain space. So I'll do my sky with 2 grids. I'll do my mountain with 2 grids. Then I'll be able to make my building 3 grids. So those are the reasons why I use the grid. So what I want you to do, all of you guys should have a piece of paper and a pencil and an 8.5 by 11, just regular paper, okay? And draw a grid. A grid of 1 inch squares. So you'll go 11 inches here, and you'll go 8 inches that way, and you'll have a little bit of a section left over, that 1/2 inch. That's what you'll have left over. All right, so we're gonna try to draw the grid, and if you can't draw the grid right now, at least you'll be able to have it ready for the next presentation. Okay, try to draw your grid. And this grid that I have over here, it has the same ratio that it is over here. So if I blow this up twice that amount, this is what I will get, okay? So these are 2 by 2 inches, and this will also have the same amount of squares that I have over here, which ends up being 88. All right, we're down to about 3-4 minutes before we have to close this down. So the grid. So if you guys can just go ahead and just try to do a grid on an 8.5 by 11 page for the next one that we're going to do. 8.5 by 11 page, 1 inch squares, okay? Grid. We're going to do a grid, and after the grid, next time, we're going to start doing some of the drawing. We're going to start placing. We're going to start coming up with a composition. We're going to start with placing where we're going to put a home, where we're going to put the people, where we're going to put the tree, or whatever we're going to be doing a drawing. And we're going to be doing all this together, all right? And obviously some of us are going to be able to do it a little better than others, but it doesn't matter. Again, what we're going through is we're going through a process on how we are going to be doing this this drawing. All right, so if you have any questions, please send them out. And I'll type them up and I'll go ahead and try to answer some questions if I didn't get there yet. I really wanted to cover some more. I wanted to cover some more terms, but so far the things that I did utilize, that I did cover, was perspective and a grid. Remember those two words. In particular, remember the grid. What the grid is for and why we utilize the grid. The grid has been used throughout history for all artists to be able to give them an opportunity to draw in a concise, balanced way. All right? So any questions, please send me some questions. All right. If not, if you want to go ahead and put some questions on the website, if you can't think of it right now, just send them out. I'll be checking the website to make sure that there's for questions, and I'll answer those the next time around. So so this was fun. All right. I really would like to give you guys all my knowledge, teach you as much as I can to come up with a drawing and finish up with a nice drawing at the end of these courses. So I will see you guys next time on next Thursday, and I'm sure we'll be posting the exact time. And I do appreciate your time, and we'll see you later. Hasta luego.